So we're Team Snafu. This is Rob, Dawn, Hayden, and Sean. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the context, and then we're going to go to what we did, and then a live demo that will hopefully work. So our proposition statement or our insight as to what we built is that the user can find and share segments in podcasts through chaptering. The reason we want to build that is that users can discover new content, discover content, so old and new, and in a more specific way. So I may want, one example of that, maybe that I want to find an old soundbite from an old podcast. I can also share stuff if I don't want to waste my colleagues' time or my friends' time that is more to the point, so I don't want to reveal to you what we've done yet. And then that will save time in the long run. So what we currently have at ft.com is a massive archive of podcasts that are hard to search. So there's 20 podcasts, different series with more than 900 episodes within that. So some of them have been loosely chapterized within the production, but many of them aren't. And the name of our project is Selective Hearing. And that's it.
So we decided to work from the web VTT files because that's something we already had, and it's something that you get from transcripts for audio or video, so it can work on both. We took that data, transformed it into JSON. From there, we used natural language understanding from Watson to go and say, go and get me the categories for these things. We tied that back up to the timeline, the original VTT. We then sent that to a categorizer, which Sean, if you have questions about that, Sean.
I stole it from a man that wrote it about chickens, but we'll talk about that later.
So that then works out the prevalent groups for these big chunks, and we then have an output where you have the web VTT, but also you have this extra data that's like this, between this time and this time, it seems to be mostly about this topic, and we can then ingest that into the web.
So, this is ft.com. We've got a podcast, The Money Show, and we appear to have something about divorce, investment trusts, and I don't know what the thrift off experiment is, but that's in there somewhere. So what we've done is we've just consumed all of that clever stuff that Sean and Dawn have been doing into a player which kind of surfaces a little bit. So these are the sections that it sort of found, which kind of are pretty cool. They relate to the content of the podcast. So we've got one on divorce down there. We've got one about VPN and remote access. Not sure what that is. I think it might be an advert, maybe. We've got adverts. We've got something about business industrial, which is quite vague. We've got one about saving, which is, I imagine, is around this investment trust stuff. And then we've got some more business industrial. So it's kind of working. We put some cool stuff where you can kind of skip to the chapters.
It's memes that people could see, email.
For most of the reasons I've mentioned.
Which I think the product owners are going to go mad for when we show them tomorrow. And then we also sort of click those so you can see more about those particular topics. So I think all the tuning and the hard work is in the data stuff, but that's, I think, probably quite an example of like what we can do with it. And yeah, so probably got some takeaways from this really. Sean's sort of spoke to me about this chapterization and how we can improve that to make it more accurate.
Yeah.
Don't know if you want to say anything on that.
So now that we have these kind of categories that we've gotten from the metadata we got from the machine learning algorithms, we can start looking at are there other indicators in between these subjects that can tell us where they absolutely end and absolutely begin. So you may have noticed when we played the demo there that it was in the middle of a sentence, so we can go, okay, well, is there anything in these audio files that suggests that perhaps there is a break here? So is it an adverb? Is it a silence in the waveform? Is it, can you map up the transcripts again to find full stops? So you can kind of get a sense of when these things go. Is there a density up these different categories, because ultimately, the reason there's a cluster there, there's a mass in a virtual space which you can kind of go, this is the center of it. At what point do you say, okay, well, this is no longer relevant, it's just kind of, it's more kind of dead space between the sections. So there's things you can do to, in the signal processing, try and make that a little bit more clear cut. And there's things you can do to future audio files to help indicate that as well. So be it, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's that.
Yeah, and there's other things, just integration with FT, like how does this integrate into workflow necessarily? How do we map it onto all of those FT concepts kind of correctly? Like production tweaks is more along the lines of what you were saying, so how do we like help ourselves a little bit by adding these markers? But I think it's probably just like lots of other cool stuff we can do. One thing I didn't actually show you is like potentially we can share these little segments with people, so it kind of makes our podcast a little bit more digestible. Particularly this stuff's free as well, so the more shareable we can make this free content, the more like people we can get onto as subscribers maybe. So it's like it's pretty neat.
And what's nice about that is you can do the other stuff to make it more absolute where these things start. You have atomic snippets, so you can start doing customized bits of media for people that want to know about a number of topics across a set of data. So you go, I want to know about cats and golden sacks. So cool, we have all those things. Here you go. Bespoke podcasts, which is kind of cool. Maybe.
I think that's it.
Cheers. Any questions?
I'd like to know more about how the topic clustering works.
Okay, so when you, so what we do is we take those VTTs, get the JSON data, and then we chop those, we kind of concatenate some of these categories at a time to make chunks of text, and then we ask for each of these to be classified by the Watson APIs. Then we bring back all these tags, we map out every individual subtitle chunk again with the most relevant tag that came back from that request. Then we pass all those through the clustering algorithms. What happens there is you basically say, I am a piece of data in the world, right? You can imagine it as like an X, Y grid basically. And you can say, is there anyone else around? And it goes, and if you're the first one, it goes, nope, because cool, I'm a cluster. Great. Next one comes in and goes, hey, I'm some information. Is there anyone around? He goes, yeah, I'm around. What are you about? I'm about this. Cool. How far away are you? Literally, there is a Euclidean distance between these 2 points. In this case, it's over time, because it's audio. And then you say, he goes, okay, well, you're pretty close. I think you should be part of my cluster. And then the other one goes, well, that's kind of cool, but there may be other clusters who are more relevant to me. Is there anyone else? The answer is no. Then it goes to that first cluster. If there is another one, it goes, well, how far are you from me? He goes, oh, I'm closer, so you should probably come with me. He goes, okay, cool, I'll go with you then. So these clusters, kind of like gravity, kind of like bind to each other. Then, when that's all sorted out, those clusters are all evaluated, and the confidence scores of every topic for each of those items is added up. And then we say, okay, well, which one of you is mentioned most? Who has the highest score, basically? And then we return that as the categorization because it's the most relevant thing. So what you can, so we do return the list of like all the topics that were mentioned in there and how often they were mentioned. But we say we think this was largely about this thing because that's what there was most of it, which is probably correlates too. There's always segues and conversations and whatnot. So if you wanted to dig down a little bit deeper, you could say, right, okay, well, which parts of this chunk were actually about this exact thing? So you can start saying, well, we mentioned it here, 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 here. We know that as well. We just didn't do that. And then you can say, well, what were the other topics in here? Well, there's 3 other topics that were mentioned that weren't quite as relevant, and they're here, 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 and here. So you can kind of rank these things a little bit. That's how that works. So it was originally designed for counting the number of chickens in a barn. But once you can do that, you can do a bunch of stuff, which is kind of cool. So, and that's by Gary Short from Microsoft, actually. That's a really good piece of code. Gary Short /
Is that open source?
GitHub.com/Gary Short/chickens. And the link to that in the code that I've linked in the Gitbooks as well. So it's all there for you to, you know, if you've got chickens, you're sorted. Also, if you have audio transcripts and. Any other questions? One.
Is that the original FT player, or did you? Is that the original FT player, or did you?
There's actually an but this is actually the player. I've rehashed this from an experimental player that we use for that. I think you might have built back in the day.
I made it when I worked at the FT.
For some
Along with, I used to work for these guys. So
some work we're doing with experimental voices, with synthetic voices, I think. So it might be coming to an FT near you very soon.
yeah. Lily Madden made it really good. She's currently the FT and is excellent, so you want to check her out as well.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any other questions? Cool, thank you.